Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 351.
Yeah.
Welcome to another week, another episode. I hope you are keeping well and safe. I hope you have had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related.
Related, yes.
Indeed. Another quiet week.
Yeah, nothing happening.
Nothing going on again. I'm getting sick of this.
If only we had an announcement out of the blue, a shock horror probe announcement to rock us to our core.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Because it is pushing on now. We were saying, weren't we, that Russell needs to get his foot down a little bit if he wants to get this announcement out, because we haven't heard anything. And yeah. So we jest, of course. We had a big old announcement that dropped the other day, which, of course, we're going to talk about when we get onto news. We've got two new news stories that have dropped this week, which is unheard of these days. So it's lovely to be able to talk about some new Doctor Who stuff, which is good. So, dude, before we get on to the news and whatnot, I hope you've had a good week, dude. Anything Doctor Who?
No, actually, I'm afraid. No.
After all that,
I was thinking it didn't matter. I was thinking last night, because whenever we were about to record, I think, right, what have I got to waffle on about tomorrow? Have I done anything? Have I watched anything? And I thought, oh, it's all right. I don't need to think of anything this week because we've got some big news to talk about, so it won't matter. So, no, I haven't done anything else Doctor Who related.
Nice. Me either, dude. I had some other bits turn up in the house, some geekery stuff, which is all good. I had some comics turn up, some books, but nothing Doctor Who. So, yeah.
No, Doctor Who comics. Oh, I did pick up the free comic book day one with the Fugitive Doctor on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you didn't manage to grab that?
No.
Oh, I actually sat and read it in the garden yesterday. And it's only about, the actual story is about 4 pages long. It's really short, but then it's a free comic. Can't really moan. Yeah. But it's not bad. A little, it's interesting. It's just a little forerunner to the next series of comics they're going to do. So they're going to do a whole, comic book on the Fugitive Doctor. And nice. I think it's just interesting because we know so little about her character that it's going to be interesting to see where they take her, or how much they're allowed to expand on her world without ruining and destroying and obliterating canon. So this one's already intriguing. It's only a little introduction to it. And I think I can say, I'm saying it like I'm giving spoilers, but I don't think people really care, do they? But the first Doctor sort of popped up at the end, but not with her, like a totally separate scene. So I'm just wondering where they're going with it. It seems like they're tying it into the first Doctor somehow. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, that sounds good.
So yeah, a little intriguing thing. But I was pleased to pick that up. I went to my local comic store, and the guy there is such a dude. Dead Universe Comics. He's such a dude.
So in Aylesbury.
In Aylesbury, yeah, he's such a legend. He I walked in, he went, "Hey man," and he's loving it because it's all happening there. And he's like, "Don't worry, I've put one aside for you." And like, oh man, he's such a cool guy.
That's cool, dude. Oh, I love comic book shops so much.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. I need to pick up, I've not bought any Doctor Who comics for ages, actually, but there is one that I need to pick up. I think it was out in April or was out this month. I can't remember, but there's a comic book writer called Dan Slott, who's he's a really big, famous writer for Spider-Man in the Marvel stuff.
Oh, yeah, he's doing the new 10th Doctor one, isn't he?
Yeah, so I think he's doing three specials, 3 trade paperback specials, and I'm sure the first one was out in April. I need to catch that, but he's a very good writer there. I loved his his Spider-Man run. So yeah, I have to catch up with that. But otherwise, dude, nothing. No Doctor Who stuff going on.
No, I said to you earlier, I don't know where this week's gone. I feel like I've been abducted by aliens or something. It's just, I can't believe it's Thursday already. I feel like I've done nothing this week, and yet the whole week's just flown by. So yeah. Yes.
Okay. So before we get on to a couple of very small, teeny news stories, remember to follow and subscribe to this podcast in your fave podcast app. That way you won't miss a show when it lands every single Friday. And if you want to listen on your computer, on your web browser, you can do that on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of the episodes over there for free. And you can also check out the reviews and articles from the writing team too. We're also on the socials, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. There are links on the website. Come and give us a like and a follow and chat Doctor Who with us over there. Plus we have a free Discord server. Again, there's a link on the website. Hop in there and chat Doctor Who with lots of other cool Who fans. We had a raft of people sign up to that recently, so welcome new Discord fans, new Discord users, etc. Yeah, so come and do all that stuff, and also don't forget about Adam's channel over on YouTube. Don't forget to remember to go and check out Adam's channel on YouTube. It's called The Geek's Handbag.
Indeed, yes. So our last video is done really well. I'm really chuffed after spending months on it and think, because normally I spend so much time on them and I put them out and they get a couple of hundred views. I'm like, yeah, but this one's gone a bit crazy, which is nice. So yeah, go and check out my vids. Loads of Doctor Who vids on there.
And check them out.
Yeah, go and check it out.
Adam's on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Come and chat Doctor Who throughout the week too. And depending on your podcast app of choice or your platform, whatever, if you've got the ability to leave us a rating or a review, that would be amazing, because that helps us out loads. And we did have a few come in on Apple Podcasts, I think, over the last month or two. Very, very kind words. So thank you very much. And yeah, if you've got a minute to spare, then please do it. Something like podchaser.com or Apple or whatever it might be. That would be amazing. So thank you very much. Righty, bud. Let's get in the TARDIS and do this news, shall we?
All right. I feel like it's been a while since we've heard that. We haven't done news for ages, have we?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been.
Thanks, BBC. Right, the first bit of news to go through before we get on to the main event is we've got a very cool exhibition that's going to drop any time now in the grand old city of Liverpool here in the UK. It's called Doctor Who Worlds of Wonder. And the 27th of May is when it will open, and it will include contributions from stars across the fields of science and entertainment, along with the opportunity to find out about the many links between Liverpool and to the long-running sci-fi show that is Doctor Who. So Mark Gatiss, who is, they've credited him as the co-creator of BBC Sherlock, and writer of several episodes of Doctor Who, of course. He will narrate the exhibition, and he says so many people have gone on to work in science that had their interest piqued by watching Doctor Who, and one of the amazing things about the show is its ability to make us wonder. I'm thrilled to be part of the exhibition, and I do hope as many curiously minded people as possible take the opportunity to visit. And we also have a proper bona fide space scientist. She's the presenter of BBC's The Sky at Night, Dr. Maggie Adarin-Pocock. Old Maggie, MBE, she says, as a child, science fiction played a critical role in my life and inspired me to become a space scientist. It allows us to explore tales of wonder and shows us the possibilities of the future and how science fiction can become science fact. I hope the Doctor Who exhibition and my contribution to it will inspire, inform and excite everyone in the same way. So a couple of cool names attached to it. And then we also have Zoe Wanamaker. Have to mention CBE, of course. She'll be reprising her role as Lady Cassandra. She'll put her voice to the exhibit, the last pure human who became obsessed with a warped idea of perfection through surgery. So she's going to be there as well. And so visitors will be able to delve into the classic set designs of the original series of Doctor Who, as well as the incredible special effects and makeup design that bring the show to life, all from scientists, designers and producers who have worked on Doctor Who, which sounds very cool. So tickets will be available now. You can get them. It will be £14 per adult if you book in advance, or £16 on the day. There's also concession rates. And if you're a member of the Liverpool building of such a name, I can't remember, then I think it's just the main Liverpool Museum, then you get in for free, if you're a member. Oh. So this looks rather good, buddy.
I'm actually really excited for this because I've been looking for an excuse to get back to Liverpool. We went down there sometime last year, and it's the first time I've been to Liverpool. Didn't know what to expect. Never been there before. We had such a good weekend down there. I mean, it was beautifully sunny, which helped, but such a good vibe down in Liverpool. I loved it, and we both said, me and my partner, as we left, like, what a great weekend we'd have. We must go back and spend a bit longer down there. And then I found out about this exhibition, and I was like, perfect excuse to go back. So and it sounds really good, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not expecting like, you know, Doctor Who experience level of stuff, but it's just really cool that we've got this. You know, and it just sounds interesting and modern and new and fresh. And yeah, I'm really excited to go to this. That God knows when I'll actually get down there, but I will do. I will definitely go to this at some point.
Yeah, it does sound very cool. And a bit more info. So that was the people who are attached or have put their voice, etc., to the exhibition. But apparently it's going to have epic monsters. The costumes and props and sets and everything is going to be there, which is very cool. So, and it's the World Museum in Liverpool. Really, really cool. Huge old building. Very cool. So, yeah, go and do that. I'll stick a link in the show notes to go and book tickets. So get on it. It sounds very cool. From the 27th of May.
Brilliant. Right, so let's move on to the big news then, my friend. The big news, the big announcement that just dropped out of nowhere on Sunday, that Ncuti Gatwa is officially the 14th Doctor, or the new Doctor. I don't think we're numbering him. I think he's just announced as the new Doctor, isn't he? And the 29-year actor, best known as playing Eric in the Netflix comedy series Sex Education, says, "There aren't quite the words to describe how I'm feeling. A mix of deeply honoured, beyond excited, and of course a little bit scared. This role and the show means so much to so many around the world, including myself, and each one of my incredibly talented predecessors has handled the unique responsibility and privilege with utmost care. I will endeavour to my utmost to do the same." So Ncuti sounds like he's very excited. RTD and Ncuti were on the red carpet at the BAFTAs on Sunday when the news dropped, and we're doing loads of interviews. And I'll just quickly say off the bat, I'm incredibly excited. I've never heard of him before. The name meant nothing to me when I saw the announcement. I was in the middle of loading the washing machine, and I just slumped on the sofa and opened my phone and saw the BBC announcement. I literally caught it about, I think, a couple of minutes after it had been announced. So I didn't know the name, and I immediately checked, like, is this real? Because there's so many fake accounts that use that blimmin' Doctor Who handle was their profile picture. And so I was like, okay, it's official. This guy is the new Doctor. And then my other thought was, I've never heard of him. What has he done before? And then I was starting to see all the stuff on the BAFTA red carpet and all the interviews, so I got a little taste of what he's like. And I'm very excited. I've gone and watched one episode of Sex Education just to see the guy in action. You seen it? Have you seen the show, dude?
I've not seen Sex Education, no.
Well, I've only watched episode one. It's very naughty show, but very fun. I can tell it looks like a really fun show, but I must be getting old and prudish because there was a couple of scenes I was like, God, this is very rude. It's very rude. But I guess the title was the other way. But yeah, just very excited by this guy. I don't know much about him, but he seems like he's got a lot of charisma off the bat, and him and Russell together, I just loved seeing them on the red carpet. There's just this, I just get a really good vibe from Russell anyway, and I think just seeing him with Ncuti together, I feel like exciting things are around the corner, just seeing the both of them together. So yeah, I'm very excited. So what about you? Do you know Ncuti? Are you excited? Are you surprised? Give me your thoughts.
Well, first of all, to answer your question, no, I don't know of him. Mm-hmm. I've not watched Sex Education before the announcement. I wasn't even, I may have skimmed through it, browsing through Netflix at some point. I don't know, might have seen the title, but I don't know. So I'd not heard of him or that show. And I think he's fairly new. He's a bit of a newcomer in general. I think Sex Education's only his third role. And he's got a couple of things that are to be announced, one of them being Doctor Who, and the other thing is only a 3-episode run in something else. So yeah, I've not heard of him before, but after the announcement, obviously did a bit of Googling, a bit of YouTubing, and saw him in a few clips and the interviews that they did at the BAFTAs and so on. And he looks like a really cool, just really energetic, exciting guy. So I'm loving this announcement, buddy. I think it's one of the best things that we could have hoped for, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because one thing we're not going to do, we're not going to go down the road of conspiracy theories within the BBC and box check-in and all that stuff that came about when Jodie was announced. We had so much of that. I remember when they did that little reveal thing, that little short video clip of her walking through the woods and she had the hood up and all that stuff, and everybody was going crazy. If you just go on YouTube and just do a search for something like Jodie Doctor announcement reactions or something like that, you'll see people going absolutely nuts. And then when she takes her hood off and you see that it's a female doctor and it's Jodie, from that point on it just gets very sour across all of Who fandom and stuff. And it was a mix of people being elated about that and people just being dicks, frankly, about that. So we're not going to do all of that stuff because there's a lot of baggage that comes with the announcement of a new doctor. There always is. It's always they're too young, they're too old, they're too white, they're not of colour, they're not LGBTQ, they're not whatever it might be. Everybody's got their 2 cents on that stuff, purely just from the person he is and the clips that I've seen of his acting and so on. I think this is going to be an amazing era of Doctor Who. I just can't wait to see him just do his thing. It just looks like he's completely on the ball, if that makes sense. He looks like he's got I don't know, he's just got a sense of energy about him which we haven't seen in a while. So I love this casting announcement, dude. I think it's going to be a very cool era for us coming up.
I don't know about you, but I also like the fact that I don't really know him because I didn't know Matt Smith at all when he was announced, and it comes when you have an actor that comes to the role that hasn't done that much. I think there's less baggage as well. Like Michael Sheen is always put out there as somebody that people would love as the Doctor, and I think he would be amazing, absolutely amazing. But then you associate him with lots of other things, whereas Ncuti, I will just see him as the Doctor because I don't know him from anything else. Some people may think of him as the character from Sex Education, but I like the fact he's sort of coming sort of more fresh to the show with less baggage. And I also love the fact that on the red carpet at BAFTA, Russell said that because obviously you know, like you said on Twitter and stuff, people have already said, oh, he's been cast because he's a person of color and he's gay and all this sort of thing. But Russell has said, no, he literally was the last person to walk in the room. He said, we actually thought we'd found our Doctor, and he came in and did an audition at the very last minute. And we were just like, this is the guy. So I really genuinely think, Russell has cast him because he feels like he is the man for the job, or he's the person for the job, And I like that. He hasn't sort of gone in there. Don't want to go down that road of Chibnall, but he hasn't gone in there and said, like, right, I want a female Doctor. I want to do this. This is my plan, which is all well and good. Russell's auditioned people, and he feels that there's something in Ncuti that is going to be amazing. And so that brings up two things, really. One, I think that's great because we want to see what Russell has seen. Obviously, Ncuti did something incredible in the audition, and so I'm really excited to see him bring that to the screen. And the second thing I'm thinking, though, Russell actually said we thought we had our Doctor. Who's the almost Doctor? Who was that person that they had written at the top of the list? And they're like, yeah, we found our Doctor, but well, we've got one more person to see. Let's see Ncuti anyway. Let's see what he's got. And obviously he blew them away. So that whoever that person is got crossed off, and I'm like, who is that? Who was that person? So yeah, but that's encouraging because it just shows that they thought they'd got somebody really, really good, and then Ncuti must have just come in and done something that little bit extra, and they're like, whoa, this is the Doctor. This is the Doctor I'm looking for. So that excites me a great deal, I have to say. And he just, like you said, he seems on the ball. He's absolutely raring to go, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not to take anything away from previous actors who have been cast. They're all raring to go. They're all, up for it, of course. But I don't know, there just seems like, there's just something about this guy that just seems like he's got the right amount of quirkiness to go along with being a great actor. We thought we had that. Well, yeah. we thought we had that with Jodie. We thought that she could bring the right amount of kind of quirkiness, but that quirkiness ended up, in my opinion, and probably in our opinion, ended up being written as more of sort of a goofy, sort of funny, trying to be funny, goofy kind of quirkiness, which doesn't really work for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sort of slapping myself down a little bit because I don't want to get too carried away, because I do remember having the same buzz when Jodie was announced. Well, we both were really excited for Jodie. I remember saying about the interview panel she did when she was announced. I think it was over in the States, whatever the big convention is over there, and we both said like, she's going to be really cool. I can just tell she's going to be a great doctor. She's got that sort of thing. And of course, what massively let her down was the writing. She was just written to be a gormless idiot. That just came out really harsh. I genuinely didn't mean that to sound that horrible, actually, but that's how I feel about it. So I went from massive excitement to just, I sound like I'm being flippant. I'm being genuine. I did not mean that to come out that harsh, but yeah, I was so disappointed how Jodie turned out. But why I'm trying to not get too carried away with Ncuti here, but have more confidence is with Russell. I just feel like Russell is a better writer, and it gives me more confidence in the new Doctor.
Correct, Armando, and I think that's the key, right? So this is linked really closely to obviously the announcement of Ncuti, but it really does. It's like a hand-in-hand thing with the showrunner, right? So when we had Stephen Moffat announced as a new showrunner with Matt Smith, those two worked really well together. And the same, obviously, with Russell and with not necessarily Chris, I guess, these days that we know, but definitely David Tennant. And I think this is another one of those pairings that just seems like it's going to be like a much more open thing, because Chibos was so closed in. You never knew anything. You didn't know what he was saying. The only thing we knew about him was this ultimatum that he gave to the BBC, this agenda, like, I will only do this if we have a female doctor. So straight off the bat, you've wiped out, potentially hundreds of really great male actors who could have played the Doctor. So you've already put these demands in place, and then it's like you've limited yourself to, a much smaller pool of actors who happen to just be female. So it seems like that's the opposite with Russell. It seems like he didn't care whether it was a guy or a woman, straight, gay, black, white. It didn't matter, which is completely correct in my opinion. It shouldn't have been right, as Russell, I'm going to say to the BBC, right, I'll only do this if we have a black doctor, or I'll only do it if we have a white. It strikes me as Russell would never do that ridiculousness. Let's just get the best person to play the Doctor, regardless of their gender or whatever it might be. So for that very reason alone, I think he's found such a great person to do it. It just strikes me as a really good pairing between them, and they seem to get on really well. They seem to have a really good relationship already, so that's a good thing.
And that's what I mean about seeing them on the red carpet. Is there's something about RTD that just the love for the show he's got just pours through, doesn't it? Whereas Chris Chibnall was a very sort of private man, doesn't really particularly like doing interviews. I don't think that's how it comes across. So that makes promoting the show a bit more difficult, I think. Russell is the sort of opposite of that. He loves to get out there, and you could tell from sort of seeing him on the red carpet that he was absolutely brimming to talk about the show, but is out of respect, and he kept almost having to sort of rein himself in. He was like, but this is all, we've got plenty of time for that next year. Jodie's still got an episode, so we don't want to overshadow that. And you could tell, but you could see the excitement in him, that he is just can't wait to unleash whatever he's got planned on us next year. And I just love that enthusiasm, and it does create a buzz that I think has been missing by not having a showrunner like that. And it's a unique thing. I mean, I do have to sort of remind myself in a way, like, why should the showrunner have to be like that? Because I can't think of many other programs where we associate the personality of the showrunner with the show so closely. But it's just one of those things that seems to go hand in hand with Doctor Who. Be it RTD, be it John Nathan Turner, be it Stephen Moffat, Chris Chibnall. If you have a showrunner like Russell that is so enthusiastic and seems to really love getting out there and promoting the show, that enthusiasm really does translate to the audience. And I just felt it straight away on the red carpet. It was like, yeah, it was just really nice to see. I just want to ask you though, I personally, I'm thrilled with the casting. I am really surprised that they didn't go with another female though, only because I was convinced that if they went back to a male Doctor, that people would go crazy and be like, you know, it would look like Jodie's Doctor had failed. And with all the decline in viewing figures and the fan base has massively dropped off, you know, it did feel like that for a second. But because of what he said about Ncuti coming in and doing the auditions, I think that's just, like you said, it's just how it was. It could have been another female. It's got nothing to do with the state of the show at the moment. It's got nothing to do with we need another female to show that it, you know, it can work and all this sort of stuff. It just comes back to the bare basics of, no, this guy's walked in. I think he's going to be a great Doctor, and that's why I've cast him. But I am still, I would have put money on it being another female Doctor, if I'm honest. So,
yeah, I was kind of expecting it in a way, but then
to be a male,
to be another female Doctor,
yeah.
And not that there would be anything wrong with that at all, because, like I said, it doesn't matter all of that stuff. If you've got from Russell's point of view, if he feels like he has the best person to bring to life his Doctor in this era, then that stuff doesn't matter. But I did have this kind of niggling feeling that the BBC might have put a little bit of pressure on to say, look, we've come this far with a female Doctor. We can't have it viewed as a failure because now we're going back to male Doctors. So I can imagine the get out clause for that would be something like, well, who's to say that the 15th Doctor won't be another female? You know, that kind of thing. So, but I was expecting, sort of 50% of me was expecting it to be another female for that reason. The BBC saying, Russell, you really should be looking at another female Doctor here so we can continue this train of a new direction for the Doctor in Doctor Who. So I'm just glad it's the best person. Like I said, if it was another female, that wouldn't bother me at all, as long as it was as long as that person was written for, you know, really well. And I think Russell will do that. Defo.
I was going to say, in some ways, I kind of would love. I would have loved if it had been another female cast. I would have liked that in a sense that I know Russell would have written them well, and I would love to have been a strong female lead. I would absolutely love to see that, because I think that is the thing that's really frustrated me about Jodie's era, that she hasn't been written as a strong female lead. And it's, to me, it's the thing that really annoys me, because it was such a missed opportunity, and it just gave anybody that was against female Doctor, it gave them all the ammunition they needed to destroy the show. Whereas if she'd have been a strong lead, and there are plenty of strong female lead characters on the TV now, it honestly, it really could have been great. And it frustrates me to this day how poorly sort of Jodie has been let down, really, because I don't know if she ever had it in there. I'll never know now because of the way she was written. But I think if you'd have cast somebody else that really sort of commanded the screen and made a great female Doctor, it would have been brilliant. And I wish we'd seen that. So in that sense, I am slightly disappointed it's not female, because I feel like Jodie's era will get written off too easily now because of all its weak points. So in that sense, I'm disappointed. But on the other hand, I'm just excited for this sort of new era, and I think it is great casting. And I'm glad that they've chosen them based on their performance and nothing else.
Yeah, that is a, I don't know what the right word for that is. It's not a concern, but it's a thing now, isn't it? That I think Jodie's era will be overshadowed because it's been sandwiched between two more popular eras of the show. And I say that with, I don't say that with a sense of overconfidence about Russell's new era coming up. I'm just confident in him as a writer and to manage the show and to write for this Doctor. I do feel like, again, in my opinion, probably our opinion, that this upcoming era of Who is going to be one of the best since 2005. And then when you have the era before Jodie with Capaldi, although the ratings were dipping off even in Capaldi's era, they were still higher than Jodie's. So I think the ratings are going to go up now. I think people are going to come back for Russell's new era of Who. So that's going to create this kind of valley that Jodie's era sits at the bottom of, because it's in between these two more successful eras. So yeah, she is in danger of being unfortunately forgotten about. I mean, I hate to say that, but I think in 10 years time, 15 years time, if Doctor Who is still going and we're another 2, 3, 4 Doctors in, and we think back to, we're doing these kind of celebration, like, 30 years or whatever it might be since Doctor Who came back in 2005, it'll almost be like, oh, remember Jodie's era? What did she do again?
I think it'll be remembered for all the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Yeah. It will be, I don't know.
It does bring me on to something else I want to just quickly ask you before we wrap this up, and that is we talk about the ratings and stuff, and you said, you think the ratings will go up. Some people are saying because he's not a big name, after the sort of disastrous slump in ratings that Doctor Who suffered recently, people thought we needed a big name to push it right back into the limelight, and a lot of people are saying Ncuti isn't it. It's like, this is not enough to save Doctor Who. Now, I was thinking, okay, I suppose there's a slight element to that. But after this was announced, I was getting messages from, like, for example, quite a few people, but a couple of people that come straight to mind. So I was getting messages from, like, my cousin, and she's probably in her 20s, something like that. She immediately messaged me. She's not a Doctor Who fan, not really a Doctor Who fan. She's like, oh my God, I love him. I'll definitely be tuning into this. And I'm thinking, perhaps people around our age, we both don't know what sex education is. We haven't watched it. Maybe we're thinking he's not enough to bring in a bigger audience. But if he's quite sort of credible, and it seems like he is with the younger audience, and I did get a few messages like that on my Facebook and Twitter saying, my other friend, one of my great best friends, Jo, she was going mad, and she is not. She switched off halfway through the Jodie era. She couldn't take it. She loved Dave. She's a big David Tennant fan. She loved Matt Smith. She just, Capaldi not so much, and she couldn't get into Jodie, and that was the end of it. She was so excited by this guy. She was going mad. And I was saying, I don't know who he is. And she was like, what? He's brilliant. Oh, he's going to be amazing. So what I'm saying is, maybe the sort of younger audience that we want to get back will come back because of Ncuti, because they will be part of that crowd, that have walked away. But because I didn't know him, I just assumed he was a sort of unknown name. But it seems like in the, he's a bit down with the kids, with the caller group. They all know who he is, and they think he's going to be amazing. So, yeah. So maybe it will bring back an audience. I don't think we can expect like 8 to 10 million like we used to get. I think those days are gone. But if we can get back to a more healthy source, I don't know, what would you call healthy now? 5-6 million?
Well, in this day, 4 and upwards would be
4
nice.
4 and upwards, I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, let's not go down that road, but 4 and up would be nice. But I just can't wait. It's
a long wait, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a long wait, but I think it's going to be worth the wait, just because we have so much potential good change to come, with the whole production thing moving out of the BBC into a dedicated production company now. Julie Gardner being more influential because she's one of the top dudes at Bad Wolf, bringing her back into the mix a little bit, working with Russell. New Doctor, Russell's. You know what I mean? It just feels like we have so much to look forward to, and it is a shame, dude. And Russell's doing a great job of being very diplomatic. So he said on that red carpet thing, he was like, I'm sure you're dying to know more, but we're rationing ourselves for now with the wonderful Jodie's epic finale yet to come. So he's doing a really good job of trying to not steal the thunder, so to speak, because we've got this big epic story for Jodie still to come. But I don't know about you, mate, but I'm I'm not really that fussed. It will be like the Sea Devils episode where you'll probably say to me on the episode we record that goes out before it, you'll be like, are you going to watch this live, mate? And I'll be like, I guess, if I'm at home. If not, I'll probably just watch it the following morning or, you know, or whatever. So, and we haven't been like that with Who for ages, have we? You know, no. Hopefully we'll get back to the days where it's like everyone in this room, partners, wives, whoever, don't make any plans for me because Doctor Who's on at this time and I have to be in front of the TV for this, and we haven't had that for a while. So, but I think we will. Yeah.
I would love to get back to that. I would absolutely love to get back to that. I really want that feeling back inside of me, that buzz, which is completely gone. I think I'd reached the point where, as if we were getting another series of Jodie and Chibnall, I honestly, and I do mean this sincerely, I don't want to be one of those people of, I'm walking away. I really just wouldn't be interested at all. And I've said that, you know, on and off the podcast. Just the fire has gone out for me, and I never ever thought I would feel like that about Doctor Who. Yeah. Even if it was, when it wasn't at its best, there was always something in it that would make me want to watch. And I really hope with this new era that I get back to feeling excited and really in love with it again. And I just want to quickly ask you, talking about the centenary, which, like you, I'm just not really fussed about, but I am wondering, do you think we will see a regeneration? Because obviously those guys didn't know Ncuti was announced when Jodie left. I've been saying for ages that I believe we'll get an open-ended regeneration. She'll get in that TARDIS and fly off. And I believe that when Russell brings the show back, it'll start like it did with Eccleston. Ncuti will step out of the TARDIS and it will just be as if the regeneration has happened off screen. That's what I think is going to happen. And I don't want that, to be honest. I want to see Jodie regenerate. I want to see that awful console room explode into a million pieces so that I never have to see it again. And I want to see Ncuti on screen. That's what I want to see. But I don't think we're going to get that. And I just wondered if you think we will.
Yeah, you raise a good point, because they've already filmed everything, right? They've already done. We have no idea when Ncuti auditioned for Russell. I don't know. It could have been a month ago. It could have been 6-7 months ago. Who knows? I don't know.
He said he knew in February that he got the job. So I don't know when they think, but that's when he knew he'd got it, was February. So he's had to keep it secret since then.
Oh, okay, right. So that's like 4 months ago, and then he probably would have auditioned for a while before that. So yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling we'll see Ncuti at the end. I reckon they would have filmed a scene with him. Yeah, I know. The more I don't know. Because I don't think, I'll tell you why sorry, not to shut you down, but I'll tell you why I'm shaking my head is because I'm thinking back to interviews that, is it Matt Strevens or someone did recently, where he's like, we didn't even know if Doctor Who was going to carry on until Russell was announced. And we only knew the night before. And I'm thinking, so as far as they were concerned, when they wrapped up filming Doctor Who, they didn't even know whether the show was going to continue. Right.
So I'm just thinking, so that just suggests to me that this is why she's going to get in that TARDIS, and that's going to leave a big open gap that Big Finish can say all these adventures happened after she left, and she's the Doctor forever because we never saw her regenerate. And I can just see it now. But I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope we get to see her regenerate.
I think so.
But I think everything I've heard points against it.
Yeah, no, I read you. I think it would be too. I think if all the announcement with Russell and all that had happened way sooner, and we were getting a brand new series of Doctor Who that was starting in November or October, something like that, then perhaps. But because we're going to have such a long wait, I think that's too long a wait to not give us a little nugget of this is your new Doctor. I think so.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's really
exciting times, though, dude.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
It is.
For sure.
It is exciting. It's very exciting. And out of nowhere, I mean, no big announcement show, no in-between football announcement promo. It was like just dropped out of nowhere, wasn't it? And Russell said, what bigger platform do I need? I'm at the BAFTAs going out to millions across the world. I mean, again, just does that Russell's even thought of that? He's like, when's the best time I know we're going to the BAFTAs, you're presenting an award, let's do that and get loads of free publicity. Just the fact that man's so clicked on in that sense. But
And dude, I love that as well about Russell. Like, I'm so glad they don't do these live announcement TV shows on the BBC. They're just terrible, mate. They've never been good.
No,
they've always been so cheesy. And
I'd admit I liked the Matt Smith one, but I remember sort of sitting down and watching that. So excited. But yeah, the other one, yeah, I agree with you. This is, and I think one of the other podcasts I was listening to, I think it was the Doctor Who show one. Those guys said, it's just this day and age, the audience they're sort of going for stuff. Of course, it's a social media thing. Just there is no need for a big announcement show. Just get it out there, drop it on social, and it spreads like wildfire anyway. So
exactly, mate. Yeah,
we're living in a different age, really.
And Russell gets that as well. He knows
exactly.
That yeah, he's been in the game long enough to keep up with what's happening in that respect of things. So I imagine that was an option on the table. Shall we do a thing? He's probably like, get out of here. What are you talking about?
Even the two emoji thing, the 2 hearts plus blue box that was shoved out on social media just for the announcement. Even that was just like going everywhere. People's like, what's this? Is this what does this mean? Just love stuff like that they're thinking of these clever things rather than, anyway, I don't want to keep comparing to what we've had before, but it's just all these little things just point to excitement and fresh times. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. Just to wrap this up quickly, dude, do you think there's anything to this? So when Russell's final words at the BAFTAs, his final words on it were, but I promise you, 2023 will be spectacular.
Spectacular. Yes, I think so. And I think,
John Sim.
Really? John Sim? Really?
John Sim's, John Simage, spectacular.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't put 2 and 2 together.
Probably nothing in it, mate, but yeah.
He's reading into it already. Yeah, wow, that would be cool, but yeah. I don't know, I hadn't thought about that.
Don't know. Anyway, any final thoughts, dude, on Ncuti being our new Doctor?
No, I just can't sum up my excitement, and I don't want to wish my life away, but I can't wait, honestly. I just can't wait. I know it's going to be a bit of a wait, but I can't wait. Really looking forward to it.
So welcome Ncuti then to the Who family. Much better decision to have a newbie or a relatively, I wouldn't say unknown, but like a fresh, new actor in the role, rather than someone like Hugh Grant that just carries its own level of ginormous amounts of baggage with it and all that.
I just a boy looking at a Dalek.
Jesus.
In the rain.
Bloody hell, yeah. So there we go. Dear Doctor Who, Big Blue Box listeners, I'm sure you already know we have a new 14th Doctor. A new Doctor, the 14th Doctor, which is going to be amazing. So we'll obviously keep you up to date, as we always do, if there's any news that drops around. I wonder if Russell will do this thing like he did in the old days, where we'll get some set pics and we'll get some updates more regularly, and it won't be a Chibbers, have you got any news on Doctor Who, the upcoming episode? What episode? The episode that you're writing. What's that then? Doctor Who? What's Doctor Who? None of that crap. So hopefully we'll get some good stuff to talk about in the run-up to his era starting again next year, which would be good.
Yes.
Right. On that note, we've waffled quite along on that, so we are going to kind of speed run through our review, I think, this week. Yeah. Let's get through it pretty quick, so you guys can get back to making a cup of tea or doing some work or whatever. So, dude, what's up for review this week?
Yeah, ship ahoy! It's the 5th Doctor adventure, Enlightenment.
Tell the Doctor, he said, somebody or something must not win the race. Winner takes all.
When the White Guard insists danger, he's invariably right.
Whatever else is going on here, no one's threatened us. Yet.
What are you competing for? I mean, the whole point of a race is to win something. What's the prize?
Enlightenment.
We do not exist in time. We are eternal.
There's no need to whisper, Doctor. You and your companions are free to come and go as you wish. You are our guests, not our prisoners.
I heard the power that speaks to you. I heard it, and I know the voice. He speaks to me as well.
Take him away.
Enlightenment then. So this was back in series 20. And it was a 4-parter. It was first broadcast on the 1st of March, 1983. And finished up on the 9th of March. It was written by Barbara Clegg, directed by Fiona Cumming, overseen by script editor Eric Sayward. Stars Peter Davison, Janet Fielding, Mark Strickson, with about half a dozen supporting cast members. And the synopsis is: materialising on an Edwardian sailing yacht in space, the Fifth Doctor and his companions Tegan and Turlough find themselves caught up in a mysterious and deadly race. The prize is enlightenment, the wisdom to find your heart's desire. And it quickly becomes clear that one of the crew members will not let anything and nobody stop them from claiming victory. As the Black Guardian pressures Turlough to complete his side of their murderous pact, it seems that the Doctor may not survive to cross the finish line. Enlightenment, buddy. We haven't done a Davison story in bloody ages, so was it cool for you to revisit this one and watch some Davison, or were you not fond of this one?
Trying to do the Black Guardian laugh. I saw a cross between the Penguin from the old Batman and... did I enjoy Enlightenment? Well, yes and no. Yes, I did like the story. But I also found myself getting quite bored. So it's a bit of a contradiction, really, for me, this one. But I do really like the story, you know. I think it's a really cool concept. And I love the idea of of these old-fashioned ships floating in space with these Eternals, using humans for their own sort of means sort of thing. So I think it's a really cool concept, actually. And I thought the cast kind of helped carry this story along, because it is a bit ploddy in places. It's not a story I watch very often at all. The Black Guardian trilogy is a strange bunch. So for anyone that wants to listen to our reviews, the other stories, we did Mordrin O'Dead back in episode 98, and I think that's probably my favourite of the three if I had to pick. It's a really strange trilogy of episodes, this one. Terminus we did in episode 160, which Terminus I've never liked. I think it's dreadful, actually. And then now we're finally doing the third one in this Black Guardian trilogy, Enlightenment. So to sort of recap my thoughts on it, I enjoyed the story. I think it's full of interesting ideas. I like the cast. I think everyone in it seems to be taking it seriously. Peter Davison, I feel like, is giving a bit of gusto in his performance. I feel like he's into it, or at least I feel like he's trying to inject some excitement into the story, because it is a bit slow in places. And so overall I liked it. As a conclusion to the trilogy, though, a little bit weak. In terms of the Black Guardian stuff. So they just sit around a table and with a chessboard at the end, and it felt like a bit of an anticlimax in terms of wrapping up the Black Guardian storyline, but it was sort of satisfying enough. But yeah, it's an odd story. It's very trippy, and I enjoyed it for the most part, but I also found myself getting bored in other parts. So it's a little bit of a middle of the road one for me. But out of the trilogy, it's probably my second favourite. I think I like Mordrin best, this one. And then Terminus is right down the bottom of the list.
Yeah, I read you, man.
But it's all right. It's all right. And there's some good stuff in here.
Yeah, I agree with you on that stuff, dude. I think it's not a bad story. It's okay. In terms of the concept of the story is pretty good.
Concept's good, yeah.
Yeah, and in reference to this being as part of the trilogy, this loose kind of Black Guardian trilogy, it's I do agree. I think Mordrin is a better, slightly better story, and the climax to this and the supposed quote unquote defeat of the Black Guardian is very rushed. I felt, because we have 4 episodes of him just popping up and laughing a couple of times. Yeah, doing his cartoon Scooby-Doo laugh. And after that, we only get literally just 2 or 3 minutes at the end of the last episode with them two round the table. It's just very,
very civilised. And these dead birds on their head.
Yeah, and I tell you what, mate, that last scene, that's just indicative of the directing throughout the entire story. It's like, right, you stand there, and you stand there, action. and they just stand there literally with their arms down their sides, not moving an inch from their spot. It's like, your line. Yep. It's incredibly static, this entire story, mate. So conceptually, I don't mind it. I think it's a pretty decent story. In terms of an engaging story to watch over 4 parts, it's a hard watch for me, dude, this one. I had to watch it 2 and 2. You didn't watch all 4 together, did you? Oh, yeah.
Oh
yeah.
No,
Yesterday.
I broke it up, and that it worked quite nicely, actually, because one thing I will say, for a story that is quite plotty, the cliffhangers are pretty decent. You know, old Turlo floating off into space, and what's the other cliffhanger? The suction room and stuff. The cliffhangers are not bad. I mean, I got to the end of episode 1, I thought, oh, it's a bit dull, but there's a couple of, some good things. I'll watch the next one. And I think if you split it into sort of 2 and 2, it's very watchable, I think, but probably couldn't handle all 4 in one go. That's a bit of a slog, I think, because it is very static, isn't it? Although we criticised Legends of the Sea Devil for the boat not having any motion on it, didn't we? We said, you didn't feel like the boat was moving. They've taken those notes on this one. There's definitely movement on this boat, isn't there?
Jesus,
the camera swings back and forth, and you almost feel a bit seasick watching it at times. Chessboards are flying across the, So there's definitely a bit of effort put in on that side of things.
That was funny, wasn't it, dude? There was a couple of times in this episode where they did it near the beginning when they're in the TARDIS, and
he flips the board over. That's
funny. Yeah. So that's so the Doctor's trying to communicate with the White Guardian, and it's using up all the power of the TARDIS, and it's going to it's going to blow up. Essentially, it's going to overcook it, and there's a bit where the TARDIS rocks. So obviously the whole set, is obviously not going to move. So they just sort of very quickly rotate the camera just quick, like a jerking motion, and it then requires the actors to make it appear as if they're following that kind of angle of tilt and stuff. And they do the same thing on the boat, as you said, on those ships. And it's it's kind of funny in a way, because it's funny and it's tragic in equal measure, because as the director, watching this stuff, in your heart that it doesn't look right, because you've got people who are reacting to it at different times. So the illusion just doesn't work. But on the other hand, you have no time and money to reshoot these things. It's just like, right, that's it, in the can, next scene. There isn't, because this story was already delayed massively because of the electrician strike at the BBC at the time. So they're already 3 months behind. You cannot you say, right, we need more studio time, because it's like you just can't do that on these old shows like this. So you appreciate the charm that it, and sort of the. I imagine if we were watching this in the BFI at those scenes, there would have been a chuckle that sort of resonates around the audience and stuff like that. So, but those little things aside, dude, I'm so disappointed in the direction. It's just so static, but then again, that's what can you do? It's like you're on a ship. And bar a few scenes where the camera's rotating a little bit to try and give the illusion of, they're not even on waves in water. That's the funny thing as well. It's like it's the space winds that are moving in around and stuff. But what can you do? I suppose you're just on these little corridors, these little tiny rooms, like the deck at the bottom when the Doctor and Turlo go in and see all the sailors there just chilling out and having a game of whatever. It's such a tiny enclosed space, and then the wheelhouse, and then there are all these just little rooms on the ship. So although I'm complaining that it's static, it's like, what can you do though? What can you do with that stuff? So no location shoots. There's no. It's all
studio bound.
Wider sets. I mean,
the one in the evening studio stuff looks nice, doesn't it? The one that's on film, the outside of the ship looks quite nice.
Oh, yeah, it looks okay, yeah.
But it's still very static. But again, there's probably a tiny set.
Oh, right, yeah. Just a small little reusable set with all these, I don't know. So I'm complaining, but obviously we're not aware of the struggle at the time and having to do that. So,
Well, I think Fiona Cummins is probably a very. She seems in the interviews as a very sort of enthusiastic director, and I think she was quite well liked. I think she was quite good to work with, but I also get the feeling that she's a bit of a old school style of director. In that she is very much shoot and point. She's not very adventurous in her camera angles or trying different things. She's sort of the opposite of Douglas Camfield. She won't put the camera down low and try and make it exciting. I think she is just a sort of old style of director, unfortunately. And like you said, you couple that with probably minuscule sets, and it's probably not a lot to work with. I think they could have added a bit more atmosphere, though. I mean, there's a couple of creaking boat sound effects added, and you get the usual 80s Davison-style music popping up here and there. But you've got some good creepy characters here, like the guy who's a bit obsessed with Turlo. He's really creepy. You've got these strange sort of people who don't seem to be there. They're sort of a bit vacant. So there's a creepy atmosphere in the story, but I don't think I think you could have made this a quite, atmospheric if you'd have added some sort of, I don't know, maybe some sound effects or a bit more music even. I mean, normally you get too much music in the 80s Doctor Who. Normally it's drowning everything out. This seemed a little bit sort of back to basics to me. It's a bit like, get the odd boop, boop sort of music of the boat, but yeah, I felt like there was a lot of scenes, actually, what I'm trying to say is where there was sort of studio silence.
Yes.
Which makes it feel really flat. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
And I thought, if you'd added in just some undertone or underlying sound effect or music here, you'd probably create a more suspenseful episode. But I think that doesn't help. There's a lot of times when it's just talking and there's literally nothing but static studio sound in the background, which makes it almost feel a little bit incomplete, really.
Yeah.
It doesn't help to relieve the boredom either.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing that comes with that, when you don't have much in a way of sort of atmospheric music or a nice transition between scenes and so on, is that it feels like you're watching a school play on a stage, because all you hear after someone's finished the last line of that scene is the clomping sound of their feet hitting the ground as they walk off set. And then it's like, that just smacks to me of like a school play or even just a normal theatre production where you just hear somebody clomping off and that. So it does feel very, very basic on a few different levels, this one. So Malcolm Clarke, so the composer, just really it's just forgettable, mate, really. I can't even remember any of the little music cues, really, other than the little whistling sound that you heard now and then.
Yeah, I was going to say that's all that sticks in my head, yeah.
Yeah, but he did Earthshock, he did Resurrection of the Daleks, Twin Dilemma, Attack of the Cybermen, Vervoids, he did all that.
God, you think of Resurrection as well, the music's like, I can hear that in my head straight away, the Dalek, doom, 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 there's that weird sort of depressing music that he has, underlying that quite a depressing story. And actually, I do like the music in Resurrection, but yeah, I can't remember anything in this really, apart from the whistle sound.
Yeah, and the Twin Dilemma as well. It's got an annoyingly catchy little melody that plays a few times throughout the story. So,
again, I can instantly hear it in my head. I can picture the twins playing the game, just like this twinkly music. Yeah, instantly hear it in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Fiona was just like, look, I haven't got time to fanny around with lots of this music. I want to just concentrate on the actors doing their thing on the boards. I get the feeling that she would have loved this to have been a theatre production or something like that, because it does play out like that in a lot of scenes where you have the old traditional way of directing a stage play, where it's like, right, you're there front and centre, you're there, and then you come in stage left, you come in stage right, and then when you're done saying your scene, you leave stage right. It has those very traditional kind of directorial cues that you'd associate with a theatre production. So story-wise, dude, conceptually, it's pretty decent. We just to summarise, then we have this kind of we have this idea of these Eternals, these beings that are just bored essentially, and they're just bored, and so they enlist what's the best way to put it? They enlist these crew members, these humans throughout history, and they use them and they create this illusion from their minds and from what they're thinking to create this kind of old English or very old human-esque kind of, high seas race, to get to the finish line. It just happens to be in space for them because the ultimate prize is to get enlightenment. So conceptually it sounds very cool. It sounds very much beyond its time. It's very out there and
it's trippy.
And very cool. It's very trippy, yeah. But the actual steps to get there as you're watching through each episode, did you find it a bit repetitive?
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah. I did. Yeah, especially with Tegan. It's a shame that Tegan was reduced to a little bit of absolutely nothing new for her at all. Like at the beginning, the Doctor says, "Stay here in the TARDIS. You're needed here." We knew that was never going to happen. It was just such an expected thing. It's like, well, what would Tegan do? Well, she'd obviously leave the TARDIS, so that's what she does. And then the Doctor says, throughout the story, let's go and do this, and she doesn't do it, and she goes off and does that. So the only little cool thing for her character, for me, was when she was knocking around with that creepy dude, the one of the Eternals that he pops up in the this was a great bit. If you and I were watching this, we would have cracked up laughing at this bit where he's on the screen in the TARDIS and his face is just looking around, and then he just does this comical, he's like slips over or something, or he falls back and he does this like, and he falls on the floor apparently. And so he eyes up Tegan, doesn't he? He sees her and he's like, "You fascinate me. You're not like all the other humans. I'm sort of,
she's having none of it.
You intrigue me." So that was the only cool thing for her character, was this bit where she's knocking around with him. He's a bit creepy. And even at the end when, they get banished or whatever, they, even then right at the end, he's like, "Come with me," or "I don't, I want to stay," sort of thing. So what do you think before we get on to Turlo, what do you think to Tegan then? Because I found her just a bit wandering around most of the time and just doing Tegan stuff. Nothing really. She wasn't written to be anything that you would remember and think, "Oh, do you remember Tegan in Enlightenment? She was amazing."
Yeah, I mean, she gets a costume change. That's about it. There are moments where there could have been good stuff. I mean, I think this thing between the Eternal and Tegan's quite interesting, and if they'd have built up that a bit, that could have been, because he is creepy. He's good casting, that guy. He's sort of likable but creepy at the same time, and it's quite sad at the end when he's like, "Oh no, but I want to learn," or whatever. And you sort of think I think there was a bit more they could have built up there, because Tegan's just so dismissive that it kind of shuts down the story straight away, doesn't it? She's just not interested. But there was other stuff, like when she's in her cabin and she suddenly notices that it's like her room in the TARDIS, and there's even a picture of good old Aunt Vanessa, So that thing, that's an interesting idea, but it doesn't really go anywhere. So yeah, sadly, she kind of just gets. She doesn't really get a lot to do apart, she gets hypnotized for 5 seconds and has that emerald put in her tiara. But yeah, she doesn't get a lot to do really, apart from sort of run away from that creepy guy. So yeah, not a great one for Tegan.
No, she wasn't terrible. It just felt like she didn't really like it. It felt like Janet Fielding would have loved to have got her teeth into something a bit more meaty with it,
She looks a bit bored in it. There is a fun scene when she walks out in a new costume, though, and the Doctor doesn't even notice. Typical Doctor. She's like, "What do you?" He comes out expecting a big, "Oh wow," and he just goes, "Right."
I know, bless her. He's so dismissive of her a lot of the time, isn't he? Davison's Doctor. He's so, yeah.
Yes.
Before we get on to some other cast members and the Doctor, then, what do you think to Mark Strickson with Turlo in this one? Because he does have his. He has a bit more to do than Tegan. So
he does, actually.
Yeah, so the story sort of comes back round again, and I guess this is the biggest link with this loose trilogy, I guess, with the Black Guardian, where he's enlisted Turlo to kill the Doctor. Turlo's dragging his heels, has kind of come round to the idea that actually the Doctor's an all right bloke, and he doesn't want to kill him, but the Black Guardian's like, you're a pathetic boy and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then there's so we have that to deal with, and then there's that bit where it feels like he's defected over to the other ship, right? There's another ship, the Buccaneer.
That's right.
Which is manned by Captain Rack, played by Linda Barron, and we'll get on to Linda in a minute. But so he's like on this ship, and then they had this big ball, don't they? Which is the costume changes and everything. But throughout it, Turlough never adapts to anything. He continuously plays this kind of what's the word? Kind of rebellious, shouty kind of character. Like, you could never send him undercover to go and do anything because he's just useless. It's like every time that there's a scene with him where he's not with the Doctor, you think, oh, okay, he's going to play up a little bit here, he's going to get in the zone, but he never really does. He just has this kind of surprised look on his face the entire story, and and does his good shouty stuff. So I don't know. Have you ever been a fan of Turlough anyway? For some reason, he's never struck a chord with me.
No, not really. I mean, there are worse companions, but there's something about Turlough. I think they didn't really know what to do with his character, did they really? His whole thing is based around him working for the Black Guardian, trying to kill the Doctor, but not really wanting to kill the Doctor. And once you've sort of done that 50 times, which and he doesn't kill the Doctor, he loses a lot of interest in the character, really. And obviously in this one, they kind of finish that story up. So after this story, they really don't know what to do with him. He spends a lot of time walking around doing his jacket up and undoing his jacket. And he really just lingers around the back of the TARDIS and stuff. So it is nice to see him getting stuff to do in this story. I like the bit where he goes to the other ship with... what's she called? Captain Rack.
Rack. Yeah.
Yeah, what a rubbish name. Captain Rack. And he pretends to, I want to be on your team and all that. So it is nice to see him getting stuff to do. And I feel like he could have been a good character, Turlough. I don't dislike him. Like I do. There are moments where I find him quite funny, although sometimes maybe unintentionally funny. But there are moments like when he's with the Fifth Doctor and he's laughing because they think he's the cook, and he does this sort of crazy wide-eyed laugh and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. He's sort of likable as character, but like you said, he doesn't really strike a chord with me. But he does at least get stuff to do in this story. When he's locked in the air suction vent or whatever it is, it's quite fun. It's like, oh no, why does he go towards the thing as well? Like, it's sucking him out the chute. Anyway, but it's good to see him getting a few things to do. But he doesn't really evoke much excitement. Exactly,
and that's what I mean. It's as a character, it's kind of he has a finite sort of his time on the show was always going to be finite, right? Because his main purpose was to kill the Doctor, which he doesn't do, and then the Black Guardian gets supposedly wiped out, and so what is left for him to do? Do you know what I mean? His character doesn't have the sort of the connection that you form with other companions who you've seen a bit of backstory for, or you've seen, like with Tegan. In contrast, we've seen her backstory and why and how she ends up with the Doctor, and then we see her constant wanting to get back home, back to Heathrow Airport. You know, and that sort of personality trait builds up to the point where you understand exactly what her dynamic is with the Doctor, what her purpose is, and all that kind of thing. But with Turlough, it's like, what is it you're trying to do here? Because you've kind of decided that you're not going to kill the Doctor. That's clear. So what is it you're doing then? There's nothing to anchor onto him. No story. There's no anchor from much else. But having said that, he wasn't terrible in the story. He was just, just Turlough, just Mark Strickson doing the wide-eyed, funny eyebrows.
The funny eyebrow thing. He does say at the end of this story he wants to go back home, doesn't he? Which you think, oh, that's okay, that's interesting. So he's I've never quite understood. Is he supposed to be? Where's he from? Because he first hit the screen when I was a kid, I sort of always thought he was human, but he's not, is he? He's just trying to desperately look this up on Wiki. Where's he from, Turlough?
He's from Tryon.
Right, so he's so we got that. So that in itself adds a little element of mystery to his character, which could have been explored more. But I mean, the fact that I had to look that up and didn't even know shows how well it's explored in the actual series. And what happens next, because they don't take him home, because the next story is the King's Demons. So what happens there? I not that I want to go and watch King's Demons next, because I really don't, but so this story literally ends with him saying, Doctor, I want to go home. And he says, okay then. And that's how it ends. A really downbeat, boring ending, by the way. I mean, that didn't help to sort of lift the story, because I was just like, is that it? So what happens with Turlo? Because I know he eventually goes back in, is it Planet of Fire, where they finally take him home? I can't remember. But anyway, so yeah, there are things to explore with Turlo, but as we know, they don't really go there, do they? And you would think the whole thing about the Doctor realising he's tried to kill him over the last 2 stories might make him a little distrusting of Turlo. And I can't remember that being explored much either, but that could have been a thing. Yeah, so he could have been interesting.
But that's exactly what I meant when I said that his kind of purpose on the show was always going to be really limited and finite, because you have nothing else about the character to go forward with.
Yeah.
So the pact between him and the Black Guardian's done. Black Guardian's gone. He hasn't killed the Doctor. Now what does he want to do? He kind of mentions that he wants to go home, which is kind of nice. So you think, okay, the Doctor's going to drop him home. Off he goes. See you later. Thanks for not killing me. And that's it.
Yeah, but thanks for making that decision.
Yeah, but the continuity isn't there. So in the King's Demons, when they land within the royal court of whatever it is, back in whatever year, that just has been forgotten, and Turlo's just there still for a few more episodes. So you think, well, I guess maybe you can just, fill in the gaps and just be like, the Doctor said, I don't want you to go home, stick around, it's going to be fun. Usual stuff with the Doctor wanting companions stick around. And then that's it. He's decided, okay, yeah, cool. I'll knock about with you for a bit longer. So that's it. I don't know, but
I honestly can't remember how the King's Demon starts, but I don't remember any stuff. It's not like Tegan where he's moaning every episode, I want to go home and all this sort of, no, you're not going home. But I found the scene at the end quite funny as well, unintentionally funny, when the Guardian's making him choose. He's like, kill the Doctor and you can have this Enlightenment, you can have it. And Turlo's got that wide-eyed, Mark Strickson's doing the whole what shall I do thing. I thought that was quite funny. He's like, shall I just kill the Doctor and have it all? Of course he makes the right decision and doesn't kill the Doctor and blows up the Black Guardian. So it all turns out very well, but it does wrap everything up unbelievably quick. It is slightly saved, though, by the fact that the White Guardian then turns around and says, he's not really defeated. Your third encounter will happen, and be prepared. And so that, again, you think, oh, okay, so there's more to come. It's not over that easy. They haven't killed him off that easily. But we've never had that third encounter, have we? So that's still out there to play out, apparently.
That's still out there, yeah.
Yeah, so the Black Guardian, see, that's what I mean. So the Black Guardian, it appeared he was killed off pretty easily in the end, but he wasn't. He's still out there.
He's knocking around,
if
just
you listen
waiting.
carefully, you can still hear that laugh.
Oh, crikey. Yeah, so the Black Guardian then. Valentine Dial. What a name. What a name.
I know, what a name. Yeah, what a name and what a laugh.
Yeah, clearly conceived on Valentine's Day.
You would assume.
One would assume, yep. Just super cheesy, man. Up until that last scene, I mean, Fiona's just like, look, I need a proper villain cackle, right? I need the viewer to be like, oh, he's an evil one with a plan, so just do that. And that was, we probably nailed it on the first one. She's like, all right, cool, yeah, we'll keep the Scooby-Doo villain. It's like you almost expect at the end of the story the line to drop, like, and I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for the meddling Doctor. Yeah. So and then the White Guardian, played by Cyril Luckham, two very similar looking guys to at this point in their acting career, coming up to the end of their careers as actors and so on, fairly old, but it's cool that you have that difference, because you also have although they look quite similar from a distance, you just got two, old white dudes around the table. You needed that contrast to play out in their performance more than anything. Do you know what I mean by that? So although they're quite similar as actors, it was cool that the White Guardian was you could tell he was like the light side of the Force, like very, very approachable, friendly, non-threatening, and then the Black Guardian was very evil and villainesque. So that was cool.
I don't know about you. I do love that idea, though, don't you? The black and white Guardian sort of out there, keeping balance in the universe. It's a nice, simple idea, and the bird thing on the head, despite being really weird, kind of works. It's so odd that it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
but it's it's a strange concept. Just quickly going back to Van Dahl, he is very pantomime in this. But I like him. I do like him in Mordred Undead. I remember as a kid being really freaked out by the look of him and the voice. In Mordred Undead, I think he's a bit more creepy because he sort of pops up in the, in the reflection of the spaceship and stuff. He's very creepy. And I remember as a kid, he really freaked me out in Mordred Undead. Like this sort of, popping up and trying to manipulate Turlo and stuff. It was really creepy back then as a kid. So I kind of still think he's really good casting, but yeah, he hams it up a bit. He's probably, by this point though, he's probably just like reading the script going, pops up again, tells Turlo to kill the Doctor again, does creepy laugh again. He's probably just, had enough by now, like the audience. So
probably, mate. Yeah, because that's all he does.
He's better in Mordred. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's very cliche villain, yeah.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we were saying at the beginning of the review, that it's just a bit anticlimactic for this to wrap up the Black Guardian trilogy kind of thing, because he is only, like the other stories he's in, he has a bit more to do. Whereas this one, it literally is just him popping up, having a cackle for a couple of scenes.
Yeah. And
then at the end, he sort of just tries to, put his case across, you're doomed, all this, the usual stuff, and then he gets wiped out with a bit of fire. So yeah,
from
definitely
an IKEA lamp.
Yeah, definitely not as a great ending for the Guardian style story in this one, but yeah. What do you think before we get on to Davison lastly? So we had another big name. So as we mentioned, cool. Linda Barron as Captain Rack. What do you think to her then? She's a bit hammy at times.
She is, but I really liked her. I kind of feel like with that sort of character, I can sort of forgive the hammy acting because I think it kind of suits it. There is a bit where she talks to camera though, breaks the fourth wall, which must have been a directing decision by Fiona Cumming, which is just bizarre.
That's weird. Yeah,
it's like so that's the sort of thing you get in a stage play, isn't it? It's very out of place, I felt, but no, I liked her. I did. I thought she was fun. In fact, I sort of wish she'd come into it a little bit sooner because it definitely, by the time we get to episode 3 and she comes into it, it definitely needed something to pick the story up, and I think she does that, but she's just not in it that much. So yeah. But no, I thought she was good in it, mate. I honestly did. I thought she was fun. Brought a little bit of camp humour to the episode and sort of woke me up a bit. I was starting to get a bit like, this is a bit ploddy.
She definitely does provide a bit of needed spice to the story at the point she comes in it. I just wish she was in it a bit more, like you said. And that is a bit weird as well, breaking the fourth wall and that, looking down the camera.
Strange, isn't it?
Again, doing the classic old Scooby-Doo villain kind of, the Doctor doesn't know who he's messing with, is that kind of story. Like, I'll show him, and then you, viewer, you'll rejoice with me in my defeat of the Doctor. It's that kind of thing, which is hilarious on its own. But just very weird when that happens in a story like this. It's like just a bit strange. But she was pretty cool though. I mean, I love Linda Barron. She's always she's just a staple, isn't she, of lots of 70s and 80s television. So it's cool to see her in Doctor Who.
Yeah, no, I thought she was fun in it. Yeah. If you want strange acting though, who's that guy from her like accomplice, or I don't know, the other guy? He's acting really weird. He's the guy that used to be in a pop band in the 80s. Lee John, who played Mansell. Okay. He's the guy. He's like really spaced out. He's like, yes, Doctor. Like, what was going on with him? He was just looked like he was off his face. Yeah, very strange. I think this is his one and only acting job. I think it says on the commentary, and I'm not surprised. He was terrible.
He was interesting, wasn't he?
Thank goodness he's only in it for like 2 or 3 scenes. Just before you move on to Davison, I do like Keith Barron as Stryker, because I like him as an actor. So I thought he was, although he doesn't really stand out in this story as Stryker, but Keith Barron, I mean, he was another one that was in loads of things back in the 80s when he was best known. Do you remember Duty Free? That terrible ITV comedy. He was in that, and he popped up in everything like Minder and things. But I feel a bit sorry for him, because on the DVD text, you can watch it with the info text. It was saying that because you were saying about the production problems of this story, so a lot of the people that were cast, by the time they actually got to make it, because of all the problems with the strikes and stuff, most of those actors couldn't actually film it, so they had to recast. Poor old Keith Barron, it was offered to about 10 different people before him. It was like, it was supposed to be Peter Sallis, I think, the guy who did All Right Gromit, the guy who did the Gromit, Last of the Summer Wine guy, supposed to be him, I think. Then they offered it to someone else, and they turned it down. Then they offered it to someone else, and honestly, the text, it just goes on, and it gets to about 8 or 9 people down the line, and it's like, and finally Keith Barron accepted the role, and I thought, God, I hope he didn't know that he was like, that far down on the list. But I think he's quite good in it. I think he's actually pretty good casting, because he has got this slightly odd look about him, and I think he's quite a good actor as well. So he's playing it down in this part, obviously, because he's an Eternal and he's a bit spaced out. But I thought he was pretty good in it. He was good. Yeah, he had that sort of cold look behind his eyes that was needed. Yeah. Who's the creepy guy that chases after Tegan? Because again, I thought he was quite interesting. I think that was, I could be wrong, but I think that's a really strange look about him, like an almost like classic look to his face. I don't know, I found him quite interesting, actually. Yeah. I don't think I've seen him in anything else before. But yeah, I'm getting I don't want to get him confused, because one of the sailor dudes, one of the head sailor dudes who they meet early on in the bunks, that was Roy from EastEnders, right? Yeah, of course. I forgot he's another good actor. Yeah. Yeah. So what's the actor's name who played Roy, who played the dude in this? I don't want to get him confused with that, but I can't remember. Is it? I can't remember his name. Yeah, but anyway, the guy that played the creepy guy after Tegan, very weird, but then you get why, if that makes sense. He's intrigued by her. He's just another human that they've plucked out of history to do their, to work for them. But she's the first one that's he's like, oh, this is somebody different. And there was an attraction there. He's more intrigued and stuff. So he's just a bit creepy. I think the character was called Mariner, in which case the actor would be called Christopher Brown. Not 100% sure, but that rings a bell. Yeah. Mariner. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to get him confused. I can't remember Roy's name from EastEnders. Can't remember his name, but yeah, I think that might be Tony Cornter. I think Roy, because he wasn't in it that much, was he? No, really? No. Oh, it's him. Yeah, Anthony Patrick Cornter. That's Roy. That was Roy. Yes, I thought in EastEnders. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it probably is that character Mariner then, Christopher Brown. Yep. Yeah. Yes. Okay, and then lastly, the Doctor himself, then Mr. Davison. I'm going to say this wasn't his best story. Oh, okay. Even though I don't think Peter Davison minded this one. He's quite vocal about the stories that he wasn't really a fan of. I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever heard him in an interview or anything slate this one pretty badly. I don't think he was too upset with this one from a script perspective and story and so on. But I did find him to be a little bit flat in a few scenes. Overall, not terrible, not too bad, but yeah, I just found him a bit flat. What about you? No, I actually quite liked him in this one, because I loved the stuff at the start when the TARDIS, he gets really cross. I love it when Davison goes down that route with his Doctor. He's like, don't you ever disobey me again, and he's having a right old go at Turlo, and shush! He's like, I want to hear the Guardian and all this. So I thought he was giving quite a good performance in this one, better than I remembered, actually. There are a couple of moments when I feel like there was a bit where he was staring out of a window, and I did wonder if Peter himself had drifted off into another world. I was like, you do know the camera's rolling, don't you? Because there were a couple of scenes, I agree, where he's perhaps he's sort of just given up a little bit. But but for the most part, I thought he was quite good. I like the bits where I felt like he added a sense of urgency to certain scenes, because there isn't a lot of action or threat or anything like that in this story. And I think anything that did sort of keep my interest going was scenes really where Peter was in it, sort of dashing around and adding a bit of stuff like that. And also the typical Fifth Doctor humour that Peter would add in, like that bit where he flips the coin to go one way and then turns around and goes the other way. Little moments like that, which, he adds to his Doctor and brings to the Doctor's character, which I like. And he gets a new stick of celery as well. Picked up a new stick of celery. So yeah, I don't know. I liked him in it. I thought he was pretty good in it. I think he does seem to run out of steam a little bit. I mean, at the ending, when Turlough's got to decide whether to kill him or not, he's very laid back in that scene.
Yeah. And
that could be intentional. It could be that he's just playing it cool. But I felt like he could have given a little bit more. I don't know. Yeah. But overall, I liked him in this one. I actually thought he was pretty good. In fact, I think he sort of kept me invested in it, because although I was sort of enjoying the story once I got into it, it is a plodder. And I was there were times when I was getting bored. And I think Peter's performance lifted it a bit. I felt like, like when he gets in the airlock with Turlough and stuff and he's trying to figure it all out. And yeah, I thought he was pretty good in it. Maybe not his best, I agree, but I still thought he was good. Yeah,
I didn't dislike him. I just felt that there were scenes where he was a bit flat. Like when he's in the wheelhouse and there's that stuff going on. He's just standing there with his hands behind his back. Just not really doing much. And at the end, like you said, that scene with the Guardians and Turlough, and it's all kicking off. He doesn't move an inch. He's just standing there and he's just watching. And you can almost see the glaze come over his eyes, and he's almost
like
a
couple of scenes like that.
Yeah. So you get the feeling that in his mind he's thinking, must pick up the potatoes for dinner because I'll get in trouble because we're having lamb. So I must pick up the potatoes. You can see that they're the cogs going in his brain. He's like, yeah. So what I mean, but so it flat in terms of not a bad performance, but just maybe it's the direction. I'm not sure, but it's just flat as in not really being very doctorish in some scenes. I'm struggling to articulate this. I'm aware, but yeah, not his best, but certainly not his worst.
You just said something quite interesting there, though, not very doctory. And I actually think, to sort of flip that on the good side, not about Davison's performance, more the story, actually. I think that is one of the things I like about this story, is it is different, isn't it? Sorry, you just saying undoctory just made me think of undoctor who-ish. That's what I like about this story. It does feel like very different to other Doctor Who stories, the setting and the weird Eternals and everything like that. So I do like that side of things.
Yes, yeah. And just to round off then, I think the story has got it's got a great sort of sense of originality to it. I think Barbara Clegg did a really good job of taking some of her sort of own life experiences and turning that into like a trippy kind of ahead of its time science fiction thing at the time back in the early 80s. I think that's very cool. And the book's probably very good, actually. The novelization, which is also written by Barbara Clegg, is probably very good. Is it? Yeah, and so she based this story on she had a very wealthy group of family relatives who visited her family one time, and they just insisted on being entertained and viewed her family as like lesser beings and wanted to be entertained and stuff. So she drew on that kind of experience in her own life and turned it into, like I said, conceptually, this very cool story. So I do like that part of it. And like you said, it is very different, especially for Davison's era of Who. So that's good.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting, actually. That's first I've heard of that. There is an extended version of this on the DVD. I didn't have time to watch it, and I don't think I've ever watched it properly anyway. I have a feeling that when I bought the DVD back in whenever it was released, I would have put it on out of interest. And it's got like new effects, and
that's right,
I think Fiona Cumming oversaw the actual extent. But I seem to remember it's not very good. I seem to remember thinking, well, because the special effects in it with the ships in this, yeah, they look dated, but they've got that real 80s charm. I think it's not a bad. It's not a bad model effect, but it's very much of its time. Whereas I seem to remember in the new extended version with new effects, they've tried to add in like modern effects that look worse than, that have dated more badly than the actual original effects. So, but I can't remember if it's this one or another story where Fiona Cummings did an extended cut and they actually refilmed stuff, and it was so bad. And I don't think it is this story, but I'm struggling to think which one it is. It starts with these two guys in a spaceship, and oh my God, it was terrible. I was just thinking, you appreciate the thought, but just leave it as it is. We appreciate the old charm of classic Who. That's what we like about it. I'm never a fan of updated effects.
She filmed a new introduction to that story, but this isn't the one where they film new bits.
I wish I could remember which story it is, because I often think I imagined it, and then every now and again I'll remember it, and I'm like, oh, that's the one, and it was really bad. It might be this one, but I don't think it is the one I'm thinking of.
No.
But no, in fact, I'm pretty sure it's not this one. Yeah.
All right, dude. Anything else on your notes for Enlightenment?
No, I think that's covered it.
Good.
Yeah.
Right, I think it's me to go first.
Go for it.
Scores, and I'm going to give this a 6.5.
6.5. Okay, I'm going slightly higher. I'll give it a 7.
7. Okay.
7. Yeah, I'm interested. Oh, we probably haven't got it. Well, wondering what we scored the other two, but I haven't. Probably can't find that now. But yeah, I think it's my second favourite of the trilogy.
Your second? Okay, right.
Yeah, I would be interested to know what I scored Mordred Undead, but I'm sure I rated it higher than 7. But yeah.
Okay, yeah. I can't remember when we did those. It must have been a while ago now.
Oh, it's a while back, yeah. It's taken us a while to get round to this one.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, Mordred Undead was episode 98, so that would have been 2015.
I probably would rate that as a 7 or a 7.5, something like that. I mean, it's not great. It's a weird story, but these two, I think, are on par with each other, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so Mordred Undead, you gave that a 7.5.
Oh, really? Oh, there you go.
And I gave it a 6.5.
And Terminus, we probably gave a 2.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Okie dokie then. So a 7 from him and a 6.5 from me. What did our listeners think to Enlightenment then? So over on Twitter, we had Will Sanger says it's one of the best Fifth Doctor stories. I love the setting and the very creepy set of villains and characters that makes the story very sinister. It's one of the best stories for Turlough, faced with real conflict and a compelling moral dilemma. An 8 out of 10.
An 8. Wowzers. Okay.
Ian says, love this story. The Eternals are fun. Keith Barron and Linda Barron camp it up outrageously. Sets look good and a nice resolution for Turlough at the end. Our writer Jordan says it's one I've grown to like over the years. The main cast are great, as always, but some of the supporting cast seem to be acting something completely different. But there is a good story here, even if it does get a little muddled along the way. Rick Moran says, the best of the Black Guardian trilogy. I've always loved a bit of intrigue and mystery in Doctor Who, and Enlightenment has lots of it. So many strange events and characters and surreal events. It's a gorgeous looking episode too, especially the sets and the costumes. The dialogue, themes and story are strong, and the performances are of a good standard. Davison is on form, and it's nice to have a strong female villain with Linda Barron as Rack. Both writer Barbara Clegg and director Fiona Cumming did excellent jobs on this story. The arc about the Black Guardian and his influence on Turlough is concluded well, and after the great first part of the trilogy, Mordred Undead was followed by a disappointing middle bit with Terminus. This gets back to the high quality, so a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
That's a good way of putting it, Rick. Edward Giluli says, I've always quite enjoyed this. It's the best of the Black Guardian trilogy. The Eternals are interesting. 7 out of 10. One of our other writers, Maria, says one of my favourite Fifth Doctor stories plays to this Doctor's strength as a more cerebral story and an ethical debate of the Eternals using other species for their games. Atmospheric, great writing and good roles for Turlough and Tegan. A 9 out of 10.
9, wowzers. Chippy
T, cracking story. Nice to see the Doctor come up against a foe who could beat him. Always interesting to see episodes where settings or themes are displaced from the norm. Tegan was excellent, an 8 from me. And lastly, Sarah Louise, the running Whovian, says, I find this a pleasant watch, a typical classic Who mystery for the Doctor to solve. good supporting cast. Tegan is less whiny. Turlough delivers facial expressions to rival Pertwee's. And the spaceship visuals have a kind of charm only a fan of this era would appreciate. 7.5. Very cool. And over on Facebook, we had a few there. Jeff Waddle says, there's a good story at the core of this, quite psychedelic in concept, which is rare in Who, but overall there's very little threat or excitement, and Lee John seems to be acting in a different story than everyone else. It's all a bit bizarre, but certainly one of the more interesting Davison stories. Andrew Stewart says, I really love this one, probably because I love Davison as the Doctor and all of his TARDIS crew. The story is really interesting and Barbara Clegg writes a good script. I think Mariner starts off a bit creepy, but as the story goes on, you really start to understand why he's the way he is, and felt a bit sorry for him. Andrew goes on to give it a 9 out of 10. Gavrick Sawyer says, honestly, such an underrated Fifth Doctor story. The Eternals are some of Doctor Who's most interesting villains, and I thought the imagery of the space race was just so unique. An 8 out of 10. Toby Coleman says, rest in peace, Linda Barron. This is an odd story that I quite enjoy. I think Turlough is probably at his strongest due to his dilemma over the Guardians. The Guardian that Tegan spends a lot of time with is unsettling due to the lack of humanity. I would love to see the Guardians and Eternals return again someday. A 7.5.
Cool.
Charlie Turner, I like with my thoughts on the Armageddon factor from the Key to Time. It's not horrible, it just doesn't seem to work for me. We need to see the Guardians again, though, and not just mentioned like they were in Can You Hear Me in Series 12 with Jodie Whittaker.
Oh, were they?
5 out of 10 at most. It's just an okay story. Were they mentioned in that one? They probably were. Yeah, nice one, Charlie.
Yeah.
Right, last couple. Joseph Howarth says, I will say it is probably the best in the Black Guardian trilogy. The Eternals are really intriguing as creatures, not necessarily evil, but not necessarily good either, just sort of empty husks with no concept of emotions. I feel the Black Guardian and Captain Rack were over the top, but it doesn't matter when the story is good overall. I will say Mariner was creepy towards Tegan, but maybe misunderstood. Otherwise, good. 8 out of 10. Cool. And lastly, Martin Arnold said, I love this story. Always have. It has a dreamy quality, and the aesthetics of the old sailing ships in space is evocative. The Ethereals/Eternals are suitably alien and strange. The resolution to the Guardian story is a bit cheap, but inevitably predictable. This has always been a personal favourite of mine, and seeing Joan Sims somewhat out of character was always amusing. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Joan Sims, does he mean Linda Barron?
I think probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We know what you mean, Martin. No worries, dude. Alrighty, so relatively strong scores there, dudes. Mainly 8s and 9s, which is good.
Are you surprised by that? Because this isn't exactly a story that comes up as being that highly regarded that often, is it? If you're down the pub, people don't normally sit there and say, oh, you've got to watch Enlightenment, it's a belter. So I'm quite surprised by the high scores.
I'm surprised, but once you start reading them and you get a sense of, okay, there's some common themes to like here, then it's, you know why. But like you said, it's just not one that you pluck out of the air around the table, I guess. Yeah. And
I will say this, it was certainly better than I was expecting. Like when I saw it was on the list, I thought when I saw that we were going to review it this week, I don't know about you, but I was like, oh no, Enlightenment. I wasn't looking forward to watching it. And I think it's made me appreciate the story more, that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, true. And I do really like Davison's Doctor as well. I think he's such a great, underrated Doctor. So it's lovely to go back and look at some of his stuff. So I think we've only got 2 more Davison stories left to review. Yeah, we have Frontios and Planet of Fire. I was going to say, I knew Planet of Fire was on there. Frontiers, I couldn't remember what the other one was. Interesting.
Yes. Okay, dude, what have we got for review next week?
It's a bigger next week. I think listeners will be surprised we haven't reviewed this because it's a big story, and it is the Day of the Doctor, the 50th.
The big one.
Anniversary story, the big one, Day of the Doctor. This should be interesting, actually, because it's, there was a massive build up to this story, and there was a lot riding on it, and I think it's going to be an interesting one to talk through. Indeedy, yes. And it's always a surprise when people learn that we haven't reviewed this one yet. So I think it's high time that we got round to it, dude. Indeed. And got our scores down for it. So next week, the Day of the Doctor should be pretty sweet. Yes. And I think we'll stick a pin in it there, buddy, for episode 351. Alrighty.
thank you so much for sticking with us and listening to another episode of the Big Blue Box podcast. That was episode 351, and we reviewed Enlightenment as well as going through some cool news stories this week. So the very cool sci-fi science show kicks off in Liverpool on the 27th of May. Go and check that out. And of course the big news of the casting announcement for the 14th Doctor, Ncuti. So yeah, let us know what your thoughts are on that. You can find us on the socials. Just let us know what you think to that stuff. Next week, as Adam said, our review story, we're going back to Modern Who, and it's the big one. It's the big 50th anniversary story, The Day of the Doctor. So we have Matt Smith, we have David Tennant back, and we also have a certain other Doctor who doesn't have a number. Bless him. But
what did Matt call him in the Time Doctor? Old grumpy face. Or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So get your DVDs watched. Get BritBox. Not BritBox. It's not on there, is it? iPlayer, your Blu-rays, your DVDs, whatever you've got. Get that watched, because we'll be asking for your opinion on that. As always, in the meantime, make sure you're following or subscribing to this podcast in your fave podcast app. We put a new episode out every Friday. You can also listen on the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk, and check out the other articles and reviews there too. We're on the socials, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, links on the website, and a free Discord server, so hop in there and chat Doctor Who with other Who fans. Also remember to check out Adam's channel on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yes. Go and check out my YouTube channel. Also on all the socials.
Go and do it.
TikTok.
Apart from TikTok, of course, yeah. So go and do it, yeah. Check out Adam's stuff. Very cool. Until next time, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember...